Federal inspectors just confirmed what thousands of RV owners feared. The industry's biggest manufacturers have been cutting corners for years. What started as whispers from frustrated buyers has now become a full-scale federal investigation. The question isn't if corners were cut, it's how far the cover-up went. Were these just mistakes or something bigger? Because when the promise of freedom turns into a safety warning, every mile on the road starts to feel like a risk. The recall nobody saw coming. It began quietly, one notice at a time. A handful of families received letters warning of gas leaks and potential fire hazards in their brand new recreational vehicles. Within weeks, the number of recalls ballooned from dozens to hundreds, stretching across nearly every major brand. Owners who had saved for years to buy their dream RVs were suddenly afraid to park them near their homes. Mechanics began posting videos online showing propane brackets bending under normal vibration. The problem wasn't isolated, it was multiplying. By mid-summer, federal investigators confirmed what owners already suspected. This wasn't a one-off mistake. The same failure, fractured mounts, misrouted wiring, defective slide-out mechanisms kept appearing in units built at different factories, yet each company denied responsibility, insisting their issue was unique. The truth was far darker. Insiders whispered that these RVs shared more than a design flaw. They shared a supplier. Every clue pointed to one industrial region where production had surged to meet pandemic demand. But the real story didn't begin with fire. It began with what the companies already knew and tried to hide. Documents they tried to bury. Weeks before the first recall, engineers had warned management in internal reports marked critical. Inspection logs showed multiple safety failures, wiring abraded against metal frames, untested gas fittings, and unverified welds on support beams. Instead of halting shipments, supervisors marked the defects as acceptable variants to keep the line moving. Production goals were more sacred than safety margins. Leaked emails later confirmed the cover-up. Quality control officers were instructed to resolve on the next cycle and to release finished units to avoid bottlenecks. In one thread, an engineer wrote, "We cannot guarantee the mounts will hold after 3,000 miles. The response from a senior manager was chilling. Ship it. Dealers won't notice until delivery season. Those words became the industry's quiet mantra. As investigators dug deeper, attention turned from spreadsheets to the human beings behind those assembly lines. Workers racing the clock in plants that never slept. Before we dive deeper into the evidence, hit that subscribe button if you believe the truth should be exposed, and drop a comment below. Inside the factory walls, behind the glossy brochures lies a very different reality. Most RVs are still built by hand, a relic of an industry that values speed over precision. In sprawling plants where sawdust coats the floor, workers assemble walls, cabinets, and chassis under crushing deadlines. The pace is relentless, one completed unit every few minutes. Training is short, turnover high, and supervisors rotate so often that consistency becomes impossible. Employees describe 12-hour shifts with little oversight, where new hires learn by watching the person next to them. "If you can swing a hammer, you're hired," one worker said. "If you can stay a week, you're promoted." Inspections meant to happen at every stage are often skipped when production targets loom. Instead, defects pile up and are patched with quick fixes just to keep shipments on schedule. And once those flawed RVs rolled off the line, the next question became unavoidable. How did they reach consumers without anyone stopping them? How it reached your driveway. From the factory floor to the dealership lot, every safeguard meant to protect buyers failed. Auditors signed off on random inspections rather than full evaluations. Trucks loaded with unverified units left the plants daily, driven straight to distribution centers that rarely questioned paperwork. By the time those RVs reached showrooms, sales teams had already rehearsed talking points to deflect quality concerns. Marketing departments reframed design flaws as upgrades. Misaligned doors became aerodynamic styling. Rushed wiring jobs were advertised as streamlined electrical design. Even limited warranty coverage was sold as exclusive confidence protection. The illusion worked because consumers wanted to believe it. For many families, an RV represents freedom, not fragility, and manufacturers exploited that trust. As the investigation widens, one question remains. If these companies cut corners so brazenly, what other dangers are still hidden on the road? Gas lines and fire hazards. Investigators began by examining the charred remains of several burned RVs, searching for a single mechanical link among them. What they found was disturbingly consistent. Propane supply lines, routed too close to heated exhausts, had softened and ruptured under normal driving conditions. The mounting brackets meant to secure them were made from thin stamped steel that fatigued after only a few thousand miles. Once a bracket failed, vibration caused the line to chafe against sharp metal edges until it leaked. Within seconds, a spark from the generator or refrigerator igniter could ignite a fire powerful enough to consume the vehicle entirely. Electrical inspections uncovered further negligence. Power cables were often undersized for the load they carried, and connectors lacked weatherproof sealing. Moisture intrusion led to arcing, which scorched insulation and spread flame rapidly along wooden frames. Every fault, from bracket fatigue to faulty wiring, had been documented in recall filings years earlier, but the same designs appeared again and again under different part codes. The problem wasn't ignorance, it was deliberate reuse of flawed components to save cost. Those failures would be deadly enough on their own. Yet another design flaw hid in plain sight, one that could trap people inside rather than let them escape. The exit that traps you. At first glance, the emergency windows on most RVs looked compliant. Bright red handles, clear labels, and promises of safety certification. But during a field test, inspectors discovered that certain popular layouts made those exits useless. Optional exterior features, slide-on grills, bike racks, and awning arms were positioned directly over escape openings. In a panic, occupants trying to push the window out would find it jammed by the very accessories marketed as lifestyle upgrades. Design review documents showed the issue had been raised repeatedly. Safety engineers noted that the add-ons violated federal spacing standards, but management waved the warnings aside. The company argued that consumers valued convenience and that practical clearance could substitute for code compliance. That phrase appeared in at least 3 internal memos. When prototypes failed certification, the fixtures were moved slightly rather than redesigned, a cosmetic fix that satisfied paperwork but not physics. If these flaws were obvious to any inspector, why did workers on the line allow them to persist? The answer lay in the punishing pace that defined every shift. The human cost of speed? Inside the production halls, speed was everything. Output quotas rewarded teams that built the most units, not those that built them correctly. Temporary workers rotated in weekly, often without formal training or safety briefings. Supervisors handed out checklists they rarely had time to verify. A veteran assembler described how he was expected to finish an entire slide-out system installation in under 30 minutes, less than half the recommended time in the manual. Cutting corners became routine, not rebellion. Federal workplace inspectors documented repeated violations, missing protective gear, overloaded lifts, and fire extinguishers buried under packaging. In one case, an investigator noted that multiple electrical panels were labeled "Do not open while energized," yet workers performed live wiring to stay on schedule. The company later paid a fine, but never slowed production. Incentive pay structures encouraged employees to skip double checks. Each minute saved meant bonuses. When management tracked productivity, they measured output per hour, never defects per unit. Yet the systemic negligence extended far beyond the shop floor. It reached deep into corporate offices where perception mattered more than prevention. The cover-up culture. Emails from executives painted a clear pattern of corporate choreography. When defects surfaced, the first response was not correction but containment. Marketing departments were instructed to change product names, create fresh brochures, and emphasize unrelated new features. In some cases, the same floor plan was relaunched under a different series designation within 6 months of a recall announcement. Customers believed they were buying a redesign, when in truth, they were purchasing the same flawed vehicle with a new badge. Legal teams refined the strategy into what insiders called the deny recall rename cycle. First, deny the scope of the defect, then issue a limited recall affecting only specific serial numbers, and finally relaunch the line with minor cosmetic updates. This cycle preserved quarterly earnings and avoided public scrutiny, but it left dangerous products on highways for years. Investors were reassured that reputational risk remains manageable. Consumers were never told that certain safety test results had been quietly withdrawn. The revelations would ripple through every corner of the market, setting off a reckoning that threatened to reshape the entire RV world. The recall economy. By the start of the new fiscal year, the RV industry faced a tidal wave of recalls unlike anything seen before. More than 10,000 units were flagged in a single quarter, spanning models from luxury motorhomes to entry-level trailers. Insurance claims spiked as fires, gas leaks, and electrical failures flooded adjuster desks. What had once been a niche problem confined to a few brands became a full-blown crisis of confidence. Dealers reported that used RV values fell by nearly 40% within 6 months. The resale market, once booming, now resembled a liquidation zone. Analysts compared brand performance charts and found a disturbing pattern. The manufacturers that pushed hardest for speed were the ones with the steepest recall curves. For insurers, the math was brutal. Claims outpaced premiums by a margin of 2 to 1, forcing some carriers to pull out of the market entirely. Small family-owned dealerships suddenly found their inventory unsellable without warranty guarantees. Buyers wanted proof that every defect had been fixed, but even the companies themselves couldn't confirm which units were safe. As the legal storm gathered around corporate boardrooms, those who built the vehicles faced their own reckoning inside the factories that made them. Workers on the edge? Inside the same plants now under investigation, the mood turned bleak. The promise of steady work had vanished, replaced by suspicion and fear. Employees who had once been proud of their craftsmanship found themselves blamed for a scandal far above their pay grade. Several whistleblowers who spoke to journalists lost their jobs within days, dismissed under vague performance clauses. Others received legal notices reminding them of non-disclosure agreements they had signed on their first day of work. Inspectors who had tried to enforce standards described subtle intimidation, work orders reassigned, schedules changed, or their reports quietly deleted from shared drives. One quality control manager recalled being told, "You can be part of the solution, or you can be gone." Burnout spread as crews were forced to work overtime to repair recalled units while still meeting new quotas. Stress-related injuries and absenteeism skyrocketed. The human cost of corporate denial was written on every exhausted face. While workers fought for their voices, another link in the chain faced mounting pressure: the dealers who had to sell what they no longer trusted. If this investigation opened your eyes, make sure you subscribe right now. Bigger revelations are coming, and you'll want to know before the next RV recall hits your driveway. Dealers, deadlines, and denial. Dealers across the country found themselves trapped between corporate directives and consumer outrage. Floor plan financing required them to move inventory quickly or face crushing interest fees. Even recalled units carried monthly costs until sold, creating a perverse incentive to minimize defects. Internal training materials surfaced instructing sales staff to focus on adventure, not anxiety, and to treat safety questions as misinformation circulating online. The line between marketing and manipulation vanished. Some dealerships quietly replaced recall stickers with generic inspection tags to maintain appearances. Others offered discounts so steep that buyers couldn't resist, even knowing the risks. Hidden camera footage later confirmed what whistleblowers claimed. One regional manager told a team, "Get it off the lot first." Paperwork can follow. That clip aired on national television, igniting public outrage. Consumers realized that the people they trusted for guidance were caught in the same trap as the factory workers: pressure without power. The damage now reached beyond individual companies. The entire industry's credibility teetered on the edge of collapse. The credibility collapse. By autumn, the crisis had spread from showrooms to stock markets. Share prices for leading RV brands plunged by nearly half, erasing billions in market value. Investors who once celebrated record profits demanded resignations. Insurance underwriters refused to renew policies for certain high-risk models. Rental fleets pulled dozens of units off the road, leaving vacation parks half-empty. Confidence, the invisible fuel of the RV lifestyle, had evaporated. Public opinion followed suit. Online forums filled with owners demanding accountability, while advocacy groups called for stricter oversight. The industry's biggest trade show, usually a festival of optimism, was canceled amid boycotts. Regulators released interim findings suggesting years of falsified safety certifications. Financial analysts warned that prolonged distrust could bankrupt smaller builders and trigger a cascade of layoffs across supplier networks. The hearings would decide more than penalties. They would determine whether the RV industry could ever rebuild the trust it had lost. If you own one, check this now. The recalls have proven one thing: owners cannot afford to wait for manufacturers to admit failure. If you own an RV built within the past 5 years, you should begin with your own inspection. Start by examining the propane system beneath the chassis. Look for rusted or bent brackets and ensure the gas line is not rubbing against metal edges. Next, test every electrical outlet while monitoring for flickering lights or tripped breakers. Early signs of overloaded circuits. Extend and retract your slide-outs fully, listening for grinding or uneven motion that could signal structural weakness. Finally, verify that every emergency exit window opens freely and that no exterior accessories block the path. After inspecting your RV, verify your vehicle identification number through the Federal Recall Database. It only takes minutes and exposes hidden recalls dealers may ignore. If listed, contact the manufacturer, document all communication, and file online complaints for delays. Always assume nothing is safe until proven otherwise. While owners take action in driveways and workshops, a different kind of repair effort has begun inside Washington's halls of power. Inside Washington's response. After months of hearings and public outrage, federal lawmakers moved to expand oversight. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration gained new authority to impose immediate stop-ship orders when dangerous defects surface. Legislators drafted bills requiring independent third-party audits of every production facility, building more than 1,000 units per year. These audits would certify weld integrity, wiring standards, and fire suppression compliance before any RV could be sold. Industry lobbyists fought back fiercely, claiming mandatory audits would crush small builders and innovation. They spent millions lobbying Congress, warning of higher costs per unit, while lawmakers debated phased enforcement and grants to balance safety demands with protecting smaller manufacturers from collapse. While lawmakers argue over reform, some factories have decided not to wait for mandates. They are rewriting the production process from the ground up. Factories in transition. In the wake of public scrutiny, several major RV plants have begun overhauling their operations. Robotics now assist with frame welding, reducing the margin for human error that plagued earlier models. Digital torque tracking ensures that every bolt meets specification before a vehicle leaves the line. Managers install scanners at each workstation, forcing real-time sign-offs that create a traceable quality log. These improvements, while costly, have already cut post-production defects by nearly 30%. Workforce reforms bring higher pay, structured training, and mandatory safety briefings to retain skilled staff. Bonuses now reward quality over speed, while independent inspectors conduct surprise audits and publish results publicly, helping rebuild trust across factories long plagued by rushed, unsafe production practices. For consumers, however, reform inside factories is only half the battle. The real change begins with the choices made on the showroom floor. Your road ahead. The fallout of the RV scandal has redrawn the map for every buyer. Before signing a purchase agreement, request written proof that the unit has cleared all active recalls. Ask for the build date, not just the model year, and compare it with public safety filings. If a defect appears later, keep records of correspondence, repair invoices, and photographs, evidence that protects your right to refunds or replacement under federal warranty law. Owners facing defective RVs should contact their state's Consumer Protection Office under the Lemon Law. Many have forced buybacks after repeated repair failures, join verified owner forums for safety checklists, and always get independent inspections before purchasing any used RV. The lesson of this scandal is clear. Vigilance must replace blind trust. The industry can rebuild its reputation only if consumers hold it accountable at every turn. Report problems, demand transparency, and support companies that prioritize safety over marketing spin. The open road remains a symbol of freedom, but that freedom depends on honesty from those who build the vehicles we rely on. If freedom is the promise of the open road, honesty must be the price of admission. Every industry hides secrets, but this one rolled straight into our driveways. What began as a dream of freedom became a warning about trust, greed, and safety. The next chapter isn't theirs, it's yours. Stay alert, stay informed, and demand better. Because the open road should carry memories, not mistakes.